welcome to Compact Conversations. I'm Jeff Schellenberger. I'm joined by Compact's contributor and friend Seneca Scott for the second or maybe third time. I can't remember. I know I've spoken to you on here before, but I can't remember exactly how many times it's been. Anyway, welcome back, Seneca.
I think it's just the second time, but thank you, and I'm
Yeah,
happy. I'm happy to be back.
yeah. So, Seneca, you've written for us a couple times on what's been going on in your city of Oakland, California. And we published a lot this week that was on the big picture national politics, but we did also publish something from you on the eve of the election that had to do with what was going down in Oakland specifically. So perhaps you could just start by giving us the rundown on the recall election and your role in it and how you would assess its success, because you and the movement you're involved in did succeed in recalling the mayor as well as the Alameda County DA. So just give us the rundown. What happened? How did the movement get started? And what do you attribute its success?
Okay, so let me start at the beginning. The movement actually started in 2023 in the spring when small housing providers were facing the longest eviction moratorium in the country in both Alameda County and the city of Oakland. And they were in dire straits. I mean, and when you're talking about the small housing provider community, and also $1 billion collectively being owed in back rent in just Alameda County alone. Um, this community is everyone, because everyone buys rental property. That's the first thing you do in America to earn other income. So you have immigrants doing it. You have property being handed generation to generation from Southern Black migrants who formed the first Black middle class in the city of Oakland, largely from working with them in the shipyards. It formed the Pullman Porters Union. Then you have, regular white people who buy property. And then you have everybody. Everybody buys property. And so the eviction moratorium was devastating abuse of our civil liberties in the Fourth Amendment, where people had to let people live rent free in their homes. And it showed people, especially people who came from other countries, to escape this very behavior, that if they wanted to enjoy an America that they came here for, which essentially is the right to keep what you earn, that is our American value, is that there's no taxation without representation, and we eat what we kill here. And that was in jeopardy. And so I'll be honest with you. The movement started with me being, and I want to say, almost dire financial straits because I had just run for mayor. I had run for city council 2 years prior. I had a nonprofit that doesn't have much money, and I had to use all my savings since COVID to get involved politically because I didn't have any funding. And so I went to some of the people who had given me money for my mayoral campaign and was like, hey, you guys are getting fucked right now with this eviction moratorium. You're losing everything. I see a movement ready to be formed. There's all of these different organizations that advocate for small housing providers, so mom and pop landlords, for those of you who haven't caught on yet. Um, let's get busy. You hire me and I'll set it off. And that's exactly what happened. They hired me and I went and I set it off. I organized the small housing providers. Now check this out, and I'll accelerate this story quickly to what's going on now. If you go back and look at the pictures, now I did a 15-minute hit on a Jesse Waters show about the Oakland eviction moratorium, longest in the country. That hit was timed with the actual city council meeting where they were voting to end it after 3 long, hard years. And we had turned the narrative from the victim being the delinquent renter to the victim being the abused small housing provider. And it was a dramatic shift. We also flooded the chambers. I mean, we had pouring rainstorms where we turned out hundreds of these people on hunger strikes and stuff. I mean, it was on and popping. And if you look at the pictures of those 3 years ago, just look up on your Google, Oakland eviction moratorium, hunger strike, act whatever keywords about Oakland eviction moratorium, and look at the photos of the people. Now fast forward and put in anything about the Pam Price recall or the mayor recall and look at the photos of the people, the organizers, same people, same people. So we radicalized the small housing providers and built a multiracial, multi-generational, multi-class movement of just regular neighbors who wanted a safe, clean, and livable city, and a city that functioned properly, none of which was happening. So we had a DA who obviously thought she was the public defender, and then we had a mayor who I don't know what the heck she thought. She called herself the executive CEO, whatever the heck that means. Both of them were woefully unprepared for even the basic core functions of their jobs. And the same movement, organized, finally got ourselves some funding from someone who was not scared of the progressive cabal who bullies anyone and everyone from funding anything that isn't aligned with their base building. And when we went to work organizing, we had a revolution, and then we got supermajority in these races. I think that you can tie in, and I'll end it here. Oakland is basically a bizarro world. If you've seen Seinfeld and you're a Seinfeld fan, you remember the bizarro world, right?
Yeah,
With a
bizarre is the
bizarro
world. Yeah.
world, or a microcosm, if you want to be more academic, Oakland is America right now. The same way you saw Trump win, it's the same way you saw the Democratic Party put out mailers, and Barbara, a congresswoman, everybody's saying, don't vote on these right-wing, radical right-wing recalls. And they succeeded with a supermajority. People are over that crap. People are over being told what to do by the very people who are failing us and then lying to us in our faces that they're not failing, but in fact succeeding in the things that we know are making our lives miserable. And so Oakland working class is rising up. We're forming multi-generational, multi-class. All of those things are important. That's why I mentioned them, because from an organizing aspect of a field organizer, it's hard to get multi-generational. But young people buy property. Immigrants, they usually don't, there's language barriers. It's hard to get Chinese people to work with, black Southern migrants. But when it comes to that property being lost, oh yeah, we became best friends real quick. All that language, all that stuff dropped away when we were losing everything that we own. And so we formed these alliances out of self-defense and self-preservation of our livelihoods and everything that we use to sustain life and our families and our generational wealth. Um, and it's beautiful because for the first time you saw people from the hills actually talking to people who live in the flats and having a true understanding of how these progressive luxury politics have had extremely adverse effects on not just the working class and poor neighborhoods, but now, since the low hanging fruit is proverbially gone, now they got to climb up a tree and take more risk, which means home invasions in your neighborhood, home and your cars being broken into, and businesses being robbed in nicer neighborhoods that previously didn't experience this type of decline. And so I would say I could sum it up with that few minutes right there. That's what went down in Oakland, to put it briefly. But there's a lot more stories inside of those stories. The heroes in there, the tales of, I was physically attacked in the streets multiple times for exercising my First Amendment right by paid goons of the mayor. I've been mercilessly attacked by an extremely unethical nonprofit or fake nonprofit news network here, to the point where I had to write an op-ed, thank you guys for publishing that, about just how low, down and dirty these people have gotten. And still we prevailed. But we only prevailed because of frontline organizing. It wasn't just to sentiment and then magically these votes happened. We had to organize. So the lesson is fund frontline organizers, incubate organizing, and it doesn't have to be the public sector labor unions and the nonprofit cabal. They don't own the ability to organize. Anybody can organize if you want to learn the trade. But it is a trade, it's a craft to organize. And the mass movement and mobilization and communication is a finely tuned skill that's extremely complex and is forever moving. And so you have to be a constant student of the game. This is the problem with a lot of these people who had a lot of success in the 80s or 90s or even 10 years ago. You don't stay up to date, you're going to left behind real quick. And that's what's happened to the Democratic consulting class and all these other people who are left scratching their heads, wondering what the heck happened with this election. You completely lost the plot and lost touch with the American people, who the average family doesn't even have $800 for an emergency. And you're callously acting like, well, crime is down. No, it's not. When you lose something that you work for, when you don't have $800 for an emergency, or when someone steals your catalytic converter, or drills a hole in your gas tank, or bips your car, or steals your tires, or takes your purse, and you name it, like that hurts you. That causes you less sleep, stress, which is the big killer. To callously disregard these things. I'll say this. Our number one video Our number one video for mayor when we're looking on the back end, and none of these videos were over 30 seconds, most of them 15 seconds, because I know people have the attention span of a gnat right now, and we're mainlining dopamine to the point where we just can't pay attention to anything. It was an 8-second video, and that included the music at the end. And there was a Latino man standing in front of his pickup truck, signing a recall petition, and he said, "She says there's no crime. We see crime everywhere." That's it, right? We see crime everywhere is the name of the video. 2 million views or something like that in a market where, or maybe not two, maybe 200, whatever it was. Everybody saw it. Every registered voter, I think, maybe saw it twice in Oakland. Just that sums it up. She says there's no crime. We see crime everywhere. Look, you're not going to gaslight people about what we're seeing, what we're feeling. And the fact that they refuse to acknowledge it, and then they focus on these luxury issues that now people are speaking out about finally because it's cool to do it, I guess. It's exactly what happened in Oakland. It's exactly the reason Kamala lost. And there's no mistake that she's from here, right? She's from here. Like I said, it's bizarro world. That's why they lost. They lost the plot. They stopped caring about the working class. And now they have to suffer for it. Hopefully they can, recenter themselves and get back to left and liberal and progressive values that actually center the working class and actually have solutions in mind for how we can make our lives better. So in rant.
Yeah, so I mean, one thing to maybe go into a bit more is who this leadership was that was recalled. Who were Sheng Thao and Pamela Price, and how did they rise to power in the first place? What's their story, and like what did they represent? And what I think you started going to this a bit, but where did they come from? What
Sure,
was
sure.
the
I,
what
I
was the
start.
sort of what was their base, or what was their base of support?
So I start with DA Pamela Price or ex DA Pamela Price when the votes are certified. She won with about 3 or 4%. She ran on criminal justice reform. She had George Soros money. She had Quinn Delaney Wayne Jordan money. She had all the progressive machine money. This was her 10th election, I believe, she ran for. So she had lost, I think, 8 or 9 previously. So she's an expert campaigner and had built a steady and loyal base, including myself at one point. Um, and she was cool, right? Pam cared about the people. Like Nas said, if I ruled the world, I free all my thugs. That's Pam Price. You know what I'm saying? She ruled the world, she's gonna free all my thugs. And basically, she did what she said she was gonna do. I give it to her. She was honest about her intentions. And she won with a majority. There was no ranked choice voting there. Terry Wiley did not run an effective campaign. He took it for granted that he thought the Overton window had already shifted, but they failed to organize around it, like I said before, and so they lost. Chen Tao is a big difference. She cheated to win. She filed her paperwork late. Should have never been on the ballot. Union loyalists who backed her covered it up illegally. There's still outstanding lawsuits, and one of the reasons the FBI is looking into this city. She also campaigned illegally on city time. There's public ethics investigations that are open, and also the FBI is looking into that as well. Then, after she won by 0.5%, with less than 1/3 of the popular vote, keep in mind, with 3,093 votes being disqualified, 5 times more than her margin of victory, being disqualified due to ranked choice voting error confusion, mostly in black and brown communities of color. I'm not even going to get into the many, many issues with that election, including our city charter being violated and multiple accounts, our registrar of voters. I mean, he's the worst one in the country. I don't understand why he's still in place. We literally have the worst registrar in Alameda County in the country. And I'm not joking, by all metrics. Look it up. So she barely won, or won in parentheses. And then what does she do? First thing she does is fire a black police chief who's from Oakland. From Oakland, doing a good job, crime being down. Immediately, Oakland skyrockets in crime, becoming a leader in the nation's stolen cars and property crime. Immediately, overnight, after they fired. We had a substitute teacher. You know what happens when a classroom has a substitute teacher? We act a fool unless that substitute teacher may be better than a regular teacher, which rarely happens, right? And there's no relationship there, especially when they're not really prepared for the job and they're a dumbass like Oakland's former mayor Shin Tao. So she messed up bad. Then she missed the public safety grant. Then she mishandled the ransomware attack. Then she messed up her first budget. I mean, then she lost the A's. Then after they found out they messed up the first budget, they realized that they had to redo it, and now they want to sell our Coliseum, a revenue-producing asset, without an assessment to pay off a credit card bill, but not even pay it off all the way. You're going to sell your house to pay off a portion of your credit card. That's what she's doing with a revenue-producing asset. These people just don't know what they're doing. Tsing won because all of the unions supported her. Over 60% of her money came from outside of the city of Oakland. She had every single endorsement. This is what they do, the same thing they tried to do for Kamala, the same thing they did for Latifah Simon. They tried to declare a winner ahead of time, then use the media, bully everybody else from not funding anyone, everything, lawfare, everything, to stop anyone else from putting forth a credible candidate. Now the fact that public sector labor unions and the left are complicit in this extremely dangerous and alarming behavior is, to me, is frankly disgusting, and they deserve to be exposed for it. So that's how Shin got elected, and Pam Price got elected. She told the truth. I just don't think people realize what that meant. That she was very serious about letting murderers out. That she was serious that she wasn't going to lock people up for violent crimes if they were black, and that she thought that white people deserved to be punished for generational racism, and she was going to use her position as DA to see that sick and perverted vision come through. People fucking voted for it, though. She told us she was going to do it, and these weirdo white people out here, they voted for that shit. So now I guess they're waking up. Black people voted for her too, don't get me wrong, but we vote for black people. We don't have enough of us in office. People vote for their race. That's one of the things in America. Most times people just vote for people that look like them, talk like them, smell like them, eat what they eat. It's human nature. But the fact that so many people fell for Pam Price is not surprising in the Bay Area, super liberal. The fact that Shin Tao was able to be elected with less than 1/3 of voters' consent. And okay, one more thing here. This isn't the first time ranked choice voting person who didn't win the popular vote with recall. Same thing happened to Chesa Boudin. Same thing happened to those school board members in San Francisco. All of them were ranked choice voting hires who did not win their popular vote and got far less than a mandate. There's no ranked choice vote in the recall. So if I can get it on the ballot, you can't beat it if people don't like you because you never had a mandate to begin with. It's flawed. And it needs to be eradicated immediately. It should be illegal in this country to have ranked choice voting. It's a perversion of democracy.
You are now at the end of the recall, which succeeded, as you said, by a landslide. And as you said, there's a far greater mandate for it than there was for the election of, at least of Tao in the first place. So where do things go from here? What's the next step?
There would be once the election is certified, which will be in a couple of weeks, maybe a little longer, since our registrar of voters is criminally slow. To immediately vacate office, it starts the timeline, and within 120 days, there will be a special election for mayor. We also aim to get ranked choice voting on the ballot to end in that same special election, although it takes a supermajority to change our city charter, so 60% plus needs to vote for that, which I believe that we can achieve. So there will be absolutely an election for mayor in April of 2025. Until then, the city council president serves as the interim mayor. Now, our city council president is Nikki Fortunato Bass, who pretty much rubber stamped everything the mayor did if she didn't incubate it herself. She's lockstep, just as much to blame for Oakland's demise as Oakland's mayor Shin Tao. And for her services, she has earned her own recall, which we will be getting almost immediately. So she will be the interim mayor, but she will also be facing a recall the entire time to keep the pressure on her to make sure she doesn't do anything stupid. And we also don't want to see her in office a day longer than she has to be. I don't care if her election's in 2026. We're going to get rid of her in summer of 2025. So that's our plans here in Oakland. The revolution continues. I'll say we lost a lot of races we should have won for city council and at-large, and progressives won those races. And the candidates who lost those races, who were moderates, who should have won, all did not support the recall. They tried to play both sides of the fence, and they John Kerry themselves. And Oakland's going to suffer for it because they did not show the courage of conviction to back our play and join the revolution. They lost their election, and now the progressives have maintained not control, but we didn't win. The council split even. So now the mayor is even more important. whoever wins that is the tiebreaker. So if progressives win the mayor, they actually still run the city, which was against what we actually set out to do. So I'm a little upset about that. And all the people who didn't listen to us and we told them to join the revolution and stop being so scared of these progressive bullies, but now because they were calling us MAGA and Trumpers and all of this smear stuff to scare them away, well, now we're sitting at a supermajority that shows that we absolutely had our finger on the pulse and we won the hearts and minds of the people. And you guys paid for not supporting it because they didn't trust you because you didn't back their play. And they didn't see any courage in them. And so for that meek, moderate, measly, whatever the heck, trying to get my alliteration on, but I messed it up. I'm not that good of a rapper. And I'm not Jesse Jackson. But anyway, because of the meek moderates, normal, whackness, they lost. Stop that crap. Stop. Show some courage. Stand up for what you believe. Say what you know, not what you think is true. I don't believe that I am right. I do what I think is right. God determines who's right. So I don't take the moral high ground, but I'm willing to defend my positions with facts and logic without smears or anti-intellectual debate tactics or logical fallacies. It seems that the left just can't do that right now. They can't defend the indefensible. The only thing left for them to do is apologize, reconcile, and start the healing. And unfortunately, it appears that the party doesn't want to do that. So that's really unfortunate. But here we are. And the same thing I said is happening in America is happening in Oakland. We just recalled a mayor and a DA with a supermajority who had the Democratic Party's seal of approval, and they implored voters not to vote for it, and we ignored them. If I was them, I would be terrified right now.
So one thing that we've observed across the country this week is a huge shift away from the Democrats in blue, sometimes very blue districts, cities, states across the country, including in New York City, where I am. New Jersey, neighboring state, was extremely close, given that it's long been, it hasn't been a contested state on the presidential level for many years. Nevertheless, it really swung heavily away from the Democrats, and New York as well, California too. So, this, it seems to me, a lot of that is kind of just it's people in particular communities, who have their own reasons for this. I think many of the reasons they object, or many of the sources of their discontent, are similar to what you're describing. Just pretty dysfunctional governance over the past several years, worsening quality of life, issues with crime. These are all things that have been widely observed in many places, but especially in democratic run cities and states. And this, so this is kind of a national shift, but, and, part of why I thought it was important to talk to you a bit more is I think a lot of it is just, people kind of rejecting what they see around them on pretty rational grounds, but not necessarily, that isn't necessarily going to add up to any, particularly coherent movement unless people kind of try to figure out ways of organizing those concerns together and representing them. So it seems like on a local level, that's kind of what you've been doing. And, you've described that a little already, talking about how, these sort of particular issues on which people, like the eviction moratorium, on which people were able to come together around shared interests, even if they hadn't, previously seen eye to eye or felt they had much in common politically. And so I'm curious, just maybe to wrap up, what are the lessons of this experience for, attempting to organize people to, because I think there is overall a sense that, politics has been nationalized. It's sort of hard to, do, ambitious political projects more locally, but it seems like what you're describing suggests that that is still possible. So what are the lessons or advice for people who are trying to capitalize on this moment and figure out how to shift these cities and states in a different direction?
Okay, I mean, I can give a little bit of advice, but I would also encourage people to reach out and call us, or contact us, because this is a much longer discussion on how to organize, and it's also very bespoke to your particular area and community. But generally put, You organize around the issues. The only way you know the issues people have is if you talk to them. Thomas Jefferson said, without communication, you get revolution and apathy. Or apathy and revolution, one of the two. Loosely quoted. It's very true. So it starts with communicating to everyone. What are the issues? What are you happy about? What are you not happy about? Then once you know those, you organize around them, especially when it comes to government and policy. There's a flow chart for organizing that's very important. First, you have to educate. Then you have to agitate, and then you organize. If you skip any of those steps, things go different. The woke movement was agitation and organizing without education, which was very intentional. But they were very skillful in their agitation, but the people that were agitating weren't very educated or knowledgeable about what was going on. And so now that many of them have put it all together, you're seeing them wake up to their senses. Like, oh, wait, they're talking about they like Dick Cheney and they want to support war. I'm anti-war. I don't like Dick Cheney. What's going on here? Am I the baddie now? So it also takes time. It takes a lot of courage. It's just like union organizing, to be honest with you. One of the first things we would tell workers when we were organizing a new shop for the union is there's going to come a time when this clandestine organizing committee is going to be outed because you have to go public, and they're going to try to fire you, and some of you guys are going to get fired. You're going to suffer. That's going to happen. We're going to give you a job as an organizer, keep you paid, so you can be right back in there. And when we win, you'll get your back pay. But that's an if. I'm confident, but it's an if. But there's a risk there, and you can lose your job. That's what it takes. I have to be honest with you before we do something like that. If we don't do it, then demand, you're going to have to just get what you take. Power concedes nothing without a demand. Never has, never will. That's Frederick Douglass. Demands come with consequences. That's Seneca Scott. You don't know what consequences that you're going to levy, and you're not organized for those consequences. You don't have demands, you have ask. And you need to change the negotiation tactics. So be honest about where you stand, organize, create organizations that serve the purpose of communication and educating people first. When you have a handle on that, move to the agitation phase around the information that you presented. Once you have a handle on that, move to mobilization, more advanced tactics, and organizing, which are tactics like walkouts or boycotts or recalls or running different candidates or whatever you have, ballot initiative like Prop 36, right? That happened after an education, then an agitation, and then they organized around that proposition, which succeeded, which is an excellent organizing case study as well about how that happened that I wish someone would dive into and talk to the players so we can all put these things together about how these people-driven movements are working. The fact that the Democratic Party we had several lawyers call the recalls anti-democratic. We're going to try to have the license removed. That's against the bar. A lawyer is not allowed to say something that's legal is illegal. They're actually held to a higher standard around that. We're going to test that theory and try to get people punished for spreading misinformation that recalls are anti-democratic when they're actually the epitome of democracy. They're raw democracy. I'm not saying that everyone should do recalls. Be very cautious. We chose to recall a mayor who didn't win the popular vote, not even a third of it. And the DA, which wasn't my campaign, so I don't want to be assigned to leading it or even starting it, but the organizers and the leaders of that recall, which again come from the original movement from the eviction moratorium, they were, they had a lot of issues, a lot of victims, a lot of families who felt failed and didn't get justice. That's a compelling narrative that most people can get around, even though Pam Price was honest about her intentions and did win with the majority. So just know you're gonna feel some pain. It's gonna take a few years, and you're gonna have to stick with it, and it's gonna take some courage. And you need a mentor. If you don't have anyone who's done this before, it's very difficult to do it for the first time yourself. I don't know of too many successful organizing endeavors that didn't have a mentor somewhere in there. So find someone who used to organize, who at least knows the basic tenets of it, but you also need to have advanced communication. So you need the new media and the young kids too, because they're the ones who know how to disseminate information most efficiently right now and game the algorithms, et cetera, and get people's attention in an extremely competitive marketplace. So that would be my free consultation. If you would like to have a far more advanced, hands-on consultation. We are for hire. Um, so reach out and we can come help your city get rid of wokeness.
Very good. Well, good luck with the next steps, and thanks for taking the time. And I'm sure it's a busy week, so I appreciate your talking to me again.
Thank you for the opportunity and the free commercial. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All
So yeah,
right.
people, please do check out Seneca's piece. It's his latest contribution, and if you go